Are you wondering what DNA test you should take to find your closest relatives? Well, stop, because I'm going to be giving you the answer. Howdy, and welcome to Family History Fanatics, where we love helping you climb your tree and have fun along the way. If you're new to genetic genealogy, you probably have tons of questions. Be sure to check out the link in the description below for our free guide to the 5 most common questions we get about DNA. You might have heard that there are lots of DNA tests, and you're wondering, which one should I be taking to find my relatives? Well, let me explain that to you. There are lots of DNA tests, but not all of them are created equal, and what you are trying to find out really will help determine what test you should take. Now, one thing that we need to separate out is that there's different companies that do certain tests, and then there's different kinds of tests. So let's start with the different kinds of tests. There's really 3 different kinds of tests out there. One is an autosomal test. This tests the majority of your DNA, and it is looking at matches that you may share a relationship with in about 5 to 7 generations. The second type of test is a Y-DNA test, and this is one that only men can take. And what it is looking at is your Y chromosome. And so it actually looks at the father to son relationship, and then of course your father's father, which is your grandfather, and your father's father's father, which is your great grandfather. This only is going to be looking at those relationships. It doesn't look at any of the other relationships. Now, the third type of test is the mitochondrial DNA test. The mitochondrial DNA test, similar to the Y-DNA test, looks at your mother's and your mother's mother. And so it's only looking at this line of people. So when you ask the question, what test should I take to find my closest relatives? Well, it depends on where that relative is. Now, for most cases, you actually want to take an autosomal DNA test. That is going to be looking not just at your father's father's line or your mother's mother's line, but it's going to be looking at everybody in between as well. And so that test is going to be the one that is going to find the most of your close relatives. On the other hand, if you have a specific question on your father's father's line or your mother's mother's line, then taking a Y-DNA test or a mitochondrial DNA test may help you find out the answer. But for the most part, you want to start with an autosomal DNA test. And that takes us to the second part of the question, the different companies and what tests they offer. Now, the good thing about the autosomal DNA test is Family Tree DNA, MyHeritage, 23andMe, and Ancestry, and Living DNA all offer an autosomal DNA test. So you can test with any one of them to get that autosomal test. For the Y-DNA and the mitochondrial DNA, right now, Family Tree DNA is the only company that offers those commercially. So if you do need to take a Y-DNA test or a mitochondrial DNA test, make sure you're checking out Family Tree DNA and the options that they have there. So how does the companies, all these autosomal DNA tests, help you figure out which one you should take in order to find your closest relatives? Well, you've got to know where your closest relatives is tested. And if you're looking for your closest relatives, you might not even know who they are, and so you have no idea of where they have tested. In that case, you really want to test with all of the companies. Now, you may not have money right away to test with all of the companies, so what I would recommend is start with the largest databases first and work your way down. Currently, in 2020, that order is Ancestry with about 20 million, and then 23andMe with about 15 million, then MyHeritage with about 4 million, maybe 5 million, and then Family Tree DNA with about 2 million, and I'm finally Living DNA with around 500,000 to 1 million. So I would test in that order. If you don't have the funds for everything, make sure you're getting into the biggest databases first, because they're going to have the most people. By chance, they're going to have your more close relatives than the other places. But that doesn't mean that your close relatives are necessarily in those big databases. So save up your money and make sure that you've tested with all of them. Now, if you want to learn more about autosomal DNA testing and what it can do for you, then check out this video up here. And if you're ready for something new, then check out this video down below. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3.